day. Matt here, and this is day 12 of 30 days of intuitive eating. A journey of tuning into and listening to the body because it has its natural wisdom and it tells us what it wants. We just got to slow down, tune in, and listen. And it's a practice. It takes work. It takes unlearning a lot of things. And that is the journey. So thank you for joining. This course was created by Megan Macaron with intention inspired. So let's dive in. Today's intention is I am loving. And today we are going to explore the difference between binge eating, emotional eating, and overeating. Diving right in with our host Megan to give us a little bit of insight into what we have to expect in today's intentional session.
Hello and welcome back to Intuitive Eating Encouraged. Today our intention is to learn the difference between binge eating, emotional eating, and overeating. And the reason this is in this course, which is all about intuitive eating, is because often the diets we've tried or our mindset can create some problems around food, like eating emotionally or binge eating or simply overeating. And while you don't have to know any of this and you don't have to have ever binged or eaten emotionally, it can be really helpful to understand that there are three completely different things that happen for three completely different reasons, and they have three completely different solutions. And while intuitive eating can help all three, I think it can be really helpful to go over those three differences and their solutions right now. So let's dive in. Let's first talk about overeating because it's the simplest. Food tastes amazing, so sometimes we overeat it. The end. No, I'm just kidding. No, food is amazing. It's so yummy. I mean, who doesn't like food, right? And so when you're eating it, you might get the desire to eat some more. And it doesn't have to be emotional. It doesn't have to be anything to do with binge eating, which we're going to go over. It can simply be because food tastes good. We like the taste of it. We want to keep tasting it, and so we keep eating it. And it's simple as that. And the key here is to slow down and listen to that hunger and fullness scale. That's the solution here, is to eat slower so that the food sits on that taste bud longer, so you can taste it longer by eating less, right? So the slower you eat, the more you get to taste the bite you have in your mouth, which means the less bites you need to feel satisfied. So then you probably don't go overeat. Usually we go back for seconds because we scarfed food down really quickly for whatever reason, and we don't feel satisfied or like we got to taste it. You know, for myself, I used to eat bags of chips all the time, like entire bags of chips to my face in like 20 minutes. And so it was like, I'm eating so quickly and just eating these chips that I'm so mindless about it. I'm not tasting it. And so that was slightly emotional for me, which we're going to talk about. But the biggest reason I kept going back for more and more there was because I didn't feel like I got what I wanted, which was to taste the chips because I ate them quickly and mindlessly. And so for any type of overeating that's happening that's not tied to emotional eating or binge eating, it's usually about the fact that we're being mindless around the food and we want to bring attention to enjoying each bite of food and tasting it more. Now with emotional eating is the assumption that eating is going to change how we feel. That's it. So when we don't like how we feel, or we want to change how we feel in some way, we might reach for food. And that just becomes a habit, right? Because food is super easy. You can have it anytime, anywhere. So if you're busy with work and you can't get out for a walk or an exercise, you can't call a friend or do anything that might feel really good in that moment, the brain's like, well, you can't do any of those things, so you might as well go eat to feel better. And the problem there is that food doesn't actually make you feel better in the sense of whatever was bothering you emotionally. It doesn't take that away or solve it. It just numbs you to those emotions momentarily. And the moment you stop eating, usually they flood back in, sometimes along with guilt for eating. And so emotional eating is really just that assumption that you can change your feelings, which you really can't. And I talk a lot about how you can't change your feelings in my premium course, which I can tell you more about. But you can't change your feelings. Nothing outside of your body changes your feelings. No food will do that. And it's all internal. And so when we slow down and we realize we're emotional and want to go eat to change how we feel, the key here is to really ask yourself, is that going to really work, right? Does eating give me that pleasure or whatever feeling I'm chasing? Does it truly give me that feeling, or is that feeling momentary and the moment I stop eating it goes away? Because there's a big difference between doing something that helps you feel better and then helps you feel better for the rest of the day, like going for a nice walk, when you're stressed can really help reduce your stress levels, versus going to eat junk food can actually increase your stress levels, because now you have a lot of thinking about the fact you ate, especially if you're trying to lose weight. What does that mean for weight loss, right? Because you know it didn't solve the emotions you're feeling, and you still have to feel those emotions on top of the fact that you just ate when you weren't hungry maybe. And so it's not solving anything. And so the key to emotional eating is realizing that you can't fix your feelings, and that while it's okay to eat emotionally, right? It's not like something's wrong with it. We don't need to turn it into a binge, which is coming up next. And so with binge eating, it's usually like our thinking around food. And so emotional eating doesn't have to turn into a binge at all. You could just eat a cookie emotionally and then get on with your day. And there's really nothing wrong with that at all, unless in your head you make it into a big problem. And that's when binge eating comes in, right? We have that one cookie emotionally, and then we add in a ton of thinking. What does this mean? Will I ever be able to lose weight? I've already indulged. I might as well eat more cookies now and start fresh tomorrow. And so it's usually like these dieting rules that we've adopted as our own, those labels we're putting on ourselves, and we're reacting to our thinking about food or our body image or weight loss in that moment. So in that moment, we binge eat because we see no other option other than to keep eating, either to feel better or because what's the point? Because I've already started eating. And so it's usually belief-based and thought-based is the reason that we keep binging. And so there's a totally different solution for that, which is understanding how your thinking works, understanding how your habits work, and kind of letting go of the labels and changing that perspective like we talked about earlier. And now my premium course goes into binge eating and emotional eating. That's what it's all about. So if you suffer with emotional eating or binge eating, I want to say right now, there's nothing wrong with you at all. It's truly just a habit. It's actually not a problem. It's your brain's solution to what it perceives to be a problem, like not liking how you feel emotionally, or the dieting rules of you can't ever have carbs again. Those are the problems. And the solution your brain comes up with is eat emotionally or binge eat. And so if you're suffering from that, reach out to me and I'll give you more information on the course that covers all these subjects. But if you don't suffer from that, or you don't feel like you suffer from it a lot, simply noticing the differences between overeating, emotional eating, and a binge can be really helpful. And then understanding the differences of what to do to solve those things, right? So to recap, overeating is simply loving the taste of food and needing to slow down and let yourself taste it more without needing more bites to do that. Emotional eating is the assumption that food is going to help you feel better, which it rarely truly does, because the emotions you're feeling have nothing to do with food. And so we want to work on accepting emotions and learning how to handle them in a healthier way that isn't food related all the time. And binge eating is thought-based, right? Thoughts and beliefs around dieting rules, foods that are off limits, what this means to you and your self-worth. That's what we're reacting to when we binge. And so those are the three different types of eating that can happen for people who are overeating and maybe gaining weight from their eating habits. And I wanted to cover those. And just to cover a little bit more about dieting, like we talked about why diets don't work in the last lesson, you know, the choice is always yours. And the problem is that most diets, we give up our power to make our own choices, right? We follow the diet assuming it's going to get us what we want, but we don't know that. And we put a lot of faith and trust into something outside of the body that we don't know anything about, instead of just trusting our own body, hunger and fullness, listening to it more, and learning how it all works so that way we can work with it instead of against it. And so I just want to say, you're always in control. You have all the power. And that means that you have all the resources you need right now to change any of your eating habits. You just have to believe in yourself that you're capable of doing it, and experiment with what that feels like for you, which is why we want to experiment with things like eating for energy and drinking more water and sleeping more, and just listening to how your mind works a little bit around food. You know, are you going to these extremes? Are you creating stories? Are you getting upset with yourself for eating something when there was nothing wrong with eating it in the first place? And so it's really good to just notice the differences between these three different types of eating that can lead to weight gain and feeling kind of crazy around food, and understanding that they have different solutions, but intuitive eating can help with all three. All right, that's the end of today's lesson. I will see you in the next lesson. Have a great day.
And the reasons to tune into the body just keep on keeping on. Yes, I emotionally eat most of the time, and I'm so inspired recently. I've actually eaten like half as much, and I feel great. It's been amazing. This is like truly life transformational. Good stuff. Okay, and all that because we're just doing little bite-sized, manageable nuggets each day. So reviewing this week's healthy habit. Drink more water. This week we're going to aim for about 40 ounces of water. We keep stacking a little bit on each day. And 40 ounces. That's not that much. Very manageable. Beautiful. Today's wise words come from Maria Simpson, who said, "Just because it is Monday doesn't mean you have to punish yourself for whatever you did or didn't eat over the weekend. Your body still deserves to be nourished." Okay, get your journal out. Today's journal prompt session is to reflect on how past relationships with food have been. How has it been for you in the past? What has worked, what hasn't worked? And then, how would you like your relationship with food to be different moving forward? So reflecting on how your relationship has been and how you would like it to be. Go ahead and hit pause and give yourself a moment to journal on this. So for me, my relationship with food has been a journey with many ups and downs. From hyper-focusing on a specific diet to not caring at all, and many routes in between. Overall, though, I have felt like a victim to food, as if I had lost my own control when it came to food. And I believe this has to do with emotional eating, avoiding certain feelings or even avoiding certain tasks that I know are going to be a little harder to deal with. And I would like to take my control back by silencing my phone while I'm reading my journal prompt. Actually, I need to answer this. I'll be right back. All right, our last inspiration of the day is: how can you show yourself compassion today if you binge eat, overeat, or emotionally eat? Well, for me, first thing is always just to notice that it's happening. And I've been very gracious with myself during this journey to allow that to be my primary focus. If I can just notice that I'm just starting to eat kind of like habitually or emotionally or not mindfully, then I just notice that. And I'm like, oh, I just realized I'm eating these chips all of a sudden. Am I hungry? And then I just go from there. Why am I eating it? Should I be eating this? And then just listen. So that's how I do it. I'd be curious to know how you show yourself some compassion when you mindlessly eat, whether that's binge eating or emotionally eating or whatever it might be. Feel free to throw a comment down below or click the link in the description and you can join us over on our community activity feed within this course. It's a nice little private, safe space for us to share our journeys as we are diving through the emotional eating journey. So we'd love to see you over there. And thank you for joining me today on today's intention on being a being of loving, especially when it comes to our food. Tomorrow, our intention is acceptance. We'll explore what that looks like when it comes to emotional eating. I mean, intuitive eating. That's my challenge. It's like the reaction is the emotional eating, and the response, what I am aspiring to evolve to, is intuitive eating, and it's happening. with intention, attention, good stuff. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you tomorrow for our next session on intuitive eating. Have a great day.